Fujifilm have announced the GFX 100 RF, which is one of those kind of cameras that I feel like will be a kind of like landmark series for Fujifilm. This is of course a medium format fixed lens camera with a 35mm f4 lens, which is equivalent to a 28mm full frame camera. Of course, with it being f4 means that it doesn't actually have a super low aperture, but you're usually expecting this when it comes to medium format, in particular with Fujifilm's design philosophy here. This is of course making things as small and as compact as possible and as close to a X100 size, and I feel like they have done it here through the reviews that I've seen of it. Unfortunately, I don't have it here with me today, but we will be testing it out at some point soon. There are a couple other things that they've actually put into the camera and taken out. For example, it doesn't actually have IBIS, which seems like a little bit of a weird move here, because most cameras these days do actually include IBIS inside of the camera. This isn't necessarily a problem, because I actually found IBIS, not having IBIS, in fact, kind of nice in the XM5, which is the APS-C sort of like video-centered vlogger camera from Fujifilm. So in that respect, you know, wouldn't be great, but also it takes up a lot of energy, and it means they can actually make a saving on power consumption for the camera. But with the few losses, you have some added gains. For example, actually having a leaf shutter in the camera. Fujifilm have actually done medium format fixed lens before, but in the film environment, and actually having a leaf shutter in the lens allows you to actually like sync up with flash that much easier. The other thing that's new here, at least I haven't actually seen in one of the Fuji cameras, at least not for a while, is they've actually added a neutral density filter inside, and that's a 4-stop ND filter, which is going to be super useful for people who are looking to do architecture, do landscape. And I feel like this is where this camera is really going to take, you know, it home. It's not a camera that has a super shallow depth of field and doesn't actually necessarily need to be. It's a camera that allows you to take the top high quality photos for street photography, landscape, and then also architecture. And that's really kind of where they're pushing it. Of course, the launch for this camera is in Prague, which is renowned for its architecture, and would have been lovely to actually be there for it, because it's a camera that I myself am actually really interested in, because I've been looking at Fuji for a while and trying to work out what camera I want to go for. And when it comes to the market for a fixed lens compact camera, and it's something that I'm intrigued by, is quite vast at the moment. Of course, you've got the Leica Q3, which I feel like is its biggest competitor here, as they're most likely going to land at a very similar price point. So which one would you ultimately go for? The Leica Q3 or the Q3 or do you go for something like this new GFX? Of course, this does actually have quite a wide angle lens. It's a 28mm, which for some people is great, for other people maybe not so much. You do have the ability to do digital crop here, taking full advantage of that 100 megapixel sensor, allowing you to get a myriad of different focal lengths, which is actually controlled by a rocker on the front of the camera, which is a nice little added extra. What Fujifilm have been tending to do with their cameras recently, and it's kind of like a design philosophy of theirs, is add all of the settings that you would realistically want to change straight onto the camera. I mean, they've done it with their film simulations for a really long time and adding it more and more into the cameras. Of course, we don't actually have that function here, but you actually have the ability to change between your different aspect ratios. And this is where I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting for me anyway, because I like the idea of actually having a cinematic ratio, because at the moment there's a camera in Camera Center that's been staring at me for a really long time, and that is the Hasselblad X-Pan, and it's a dream camera of mine. And with this you'll be able to capture cinematic aspect photos. Now I know you can do that technically anyway, but this is going to be a medium format sensor, and being able to get those kinds of photos is something that I find, you know, really interesting, and something that I would actually be really happy to use. Of course, you've got the ability to do 4:3, 16:9, all of the other ratios that you'd expect, and it's a really easy change here. Now, some people have said that they wish it was kind of like reordered into something that was more efficient for them. However, everyone shoots a little bit differently, so I don't necessarily see this as being a massive issue, and you can actually customize it inside of the camera. Now, speaking on that end, This camera is actually insanely customizable, allowing you to pretty much change most of the things on the camera to do certain things. For example, like the X100 and a few other of the Fujifilm cameras, there is this sort of like springy switch on the front of it. You can actually change that to long presses and short presses, both either way, and it actually allows you to change the settings in a certain way, which I feel like we best set up to do maybe film simulations, maybe set up between doing a cinematic aspect ratio to a normal one instead of using that rocker on the front. It's an interesting perspective, I think, Fujifilm have actually added with this camera. And if I'm honest, I can't actually wait to give it a go. I think overall, Fuji have been creating some of the most interesting cameras of late anyway. And this GFX 100 RF is one of them. Is it going to be successful for them? That's what is going to be interesting to watch from here, because, you know, the renowned success of the X100 has been pretty much plaguing Fujifilm for a long time, making sure they keep up with those back orders. And they're releasing more cameras that are kind of like taking the bits of the Fujifilm X100 that people like and then adding them in a different way. And of course, this is doing it again in a different way. It's standing up to more of what you would have seen out of the Q3, so like actually having a high megapixel large sensor, and that's really at the core what this camera is about, is that large sensor to be able to get super high quality images. And from what I've seen anyway, you can get super high quality images. Other things to mention just before we finish the video is you've actually got a tilt screen that goes up and down, and it's nice and flush, and actually it is as compact as possible, keeping with that design factor. So the digital converter allows you to shoot 35, 50 and then 63 millimeters, giving you a great kind of like option there if you're interested in that in particular. Of course, you've got all of the 20 film simulations that Fujifilm offer at the moment, which is actually absolutely fantastic. And they haven't necessarily skimped out on the viewfinder, which is a high quality viewfinder that you can actually boost to be both high quality and at 120 frames. So it's as realistic as you're going to get to the human eye, essentially. This is actually reasonably lightweight, being only 735 grams, making it a great camera just to take out and shoot. It's nice and small, nice and compact, medium format, really trying to stand against the Q series cameras from Leica. If you are looking to get into the GFX lineup, this camera is actually reasonably cheap compared to the GFX series. You are actually looking to only spend £4,699 on this model, and it both comes in silver and black. Then when you compare it to the Leica Q3, you're looking to spend £5,299 on just the Q3. If you want to get the 43 variant, you're looking to pay £5,900, which means you can get a camera that actually has a larger sensor than a Q3. Yes, it may be a little bit bigger, but you're going to get higher quality images out of it. And the real question here is, like, how are Leica going to respond to this? Because it's priced incredibly competitively. I don't see a reason why I would look at Q3 when I could get a medium format camera. And the other side of it is, because it's a 35mm 28 equivalent to full frame, you're still getting that 35mm compression that you would actually see on a 35mm full frame camera. So there are a lot of different aspects here and a lot of different questions I want to answer, and I can't actually wait to have a go with the camera myself. But really, ultimately, I want to hear what you think. Is this a camera that you are fundamentally interested in? Is it something that actually gets your goose going, let's say? But I want to hear from you. Do you like this camera? Do you think it's an unneeded kind of thing, or do you think it's a real competition for the Leica Q series? Make sure you put a comment in down below. If you like this video, please like, follow and subscribe if you want to see more. Today, I'm actually going around Cardiff playing with a camera that holds no cake to a GFX. And that's a TX1. I like it. It's cool, isn't it? Maybe medium format camera inside of a TX1. What do you reckon? How long do you reckon it's going to take to actually be able to do that? That would be awesome with a little... Oh, it's the noise. That's it. It's cool.